Hello everybody, I'm Nadine Brandis, the author of FAWKES and the Out of Time series, and today I want to talk about editing and different types of edits. So a while back I did a video on how I became a freelance editor. I was a freelance editor and started my own business, and I ran that editing business for about 5 years, where I edited for over 100 different authors, many of which who went on to get traditionally published and also successfully independently published. I was offered positions, editing positions at different publishing houses, but due to a book contract, yay, I ended up not taking those and I stopped editing so that I could focus on writing full time. So in my past video, I was talking about freelance editing and all of the different types of edits that pertains to. So we have content edits and line edits and copy edits, and if you're a writer looking for editing, it's important to understand the differences between them. So a lot of you guys asked me to do a video explaining the differences, so here I am for you. But before I get into that, you need to understand something. Not all editing means fixing words, particularly in fiction. So disclaimer, all of my videos are relating to fiction, because that's what I write and I'm familiar with. So there are what are called content edits and technical edits. Content edits look at story. Technical edits look at words and word choice and things like that. And there are several different types of edits that fall under each category, content or technical. You have written your book. Your first draft is ready. It's beautiful. It's perfect. Just kidding, because it's a first draft. Now you need to edit. Whether this means you are going to edit it and do it yourself and fine tune it as much as you can, or you're going to hire a freelance editor to edit it for you, or you're on contract and so you're turning it into your publisher and it's going to go to that editor. No matter what it is, you are going to go through all of the edits in order. And it starts with the content editing. What is content editing? This can be called many different things. Sometimes it's called a substantive edit. Sometimes it's called a macro or micro edit, which macro and micro have some differences, but generally all of these content edit, substantive edit, macro, micro edit are looking at your story. Do you have a story? And the story flow and all of the big elements that make a good fiction book. They're not looking at word choice at all. Grammar has no say in any of this. This looks at the whole book. It digs into your beginning and your hook. It tackles things like showing versus telling, point of view consistency, character arcs, plot threads, story world building, setting. Is it actually a decent story that's going to keep a reader engaged, or does it need to be rewritten? That's what the content edit does. So if you're giving your book to an editor and they're doing some sort of content edit or substantive edit, you're probably going to get back a giant chunk of notes talking about these big areas of your story that need to be fixed, and it can take you a couple months to apply them all to your story. It's very intensive. This is the edit that makes authors cry. When you get your notes back, you're digging into the creative part of your brain to apply those changes and rethink the story and really tighten all of those big elements. So usually after a giant content edit, the next edit will usually be a line edit. This is kind of between a technical edit and a content edit in that it is still looking at some of those bigger picture elements like dialogue flow, and it's trying to catch any last mistakes in character arcs or consistency or plot threads and things like that. But for the most part, the line edit is coming in to look at the flow of your writing. A line edit is going through your manuscript line by line and looking at word choice, looking at repetition. Do you make your character blink way too much or swallow all the time? That was my weasel word. It makes a list of weasel words. It makes a list of consistencies. Did the eye color change? Did the name change? It suggests transitions or says, hey, I think you need to add a scene here to heighten the romantic tension or whatever. So overall, this is kind of checking to make sure that you did all of the content edit changes and that the story reads pretty smoothly without a whole bunch of inconsistencies, and makes sure that your writing is very tight and that all of your descriptions are pretty thorough and you're not missing anything that brings that book alive. Depending on your editor, it It can be more content-based or it can be more technical-based. So let's move on then to the next edit, which is usually the copy edit. The copy edit is totally and 100% a technical edit. And what that means is that it is looking at punctuation and grammar and typos and spelling and all of those things that are going to distract a reader who has any sort of grammatical or spelling or English education. It checks for redundancies and some word choice and capitalization inconsistencies. So the copy editor gets out their fine-tooth comb and they go through everything, but hopefully by this point you've made their job not too hard because you've done a nice, thorough content edit and line edit, and so now hopefully it's coming to them as clean as you can get it, and they are the ones with the technical brain that sees all the stuff that you can't see when you are too close to your story, which is all the time because you're the author. The copy editor is so important. We've all found those books where we're like, wow, this could have used another read through. The copy editor is the person who tries to make it so that that does not happen to your book. Publishing houses typically have at least those three: the content editor, the line editor, and the copy editor. Maybe the same editor does a couple of those edits, or your publishing house will have a different editor for each one. You can also hire a freelance editor to do any of those for you, but you want to make sure to do them in order because you don't want to have a copy editor who's got their fine-tooth comb fixing every single typo and comma and grammar error on a manuscript that's completely inconsistent plot-wise. These edits start with the big picture and they fix the big problems and then the smaller problems and then the teeny tiniest problems, and then it is printed for reader joy. All three of them are very, very important, but it doesn't stop there. Sometimes publishers also have a proofreader. A proofreader is that last set of eyes that goes over your manuscript. Usually they are looking at your manuscript when it is typeset. And what that means is your manuscript has been all organized and typeset for exactly how it's going to look when it is printed, with the fonts and the margins and the size and everything. It's pretty much ready to be bound up. I'm not as familiar with proofreading because I was more of a content editor. I did the giant picture edit and the line edits for authors. Content is more creativity. Technical edits are more technical, and those actually come from two different parts of your brain. So if you think about when you're trying to write, if you're trying to edit as you write, you're trying to make both sides of your brain work at the same time. Whereas creating a story or focusing on those big elements like plot and character and things like that, that's using the creative side of your brain. And then fixing that and fine-tooth combing it and doing technical edits is using the other side of your brain. So that's why it's hard to edit as you go. Overall, that's a breakdown of the different types of edits. If you have any questions or there's anything that I've missed or you'd like me to cover more thoroughly, please let me know down in the comments and I would be happy to answer all of your questions. If you want to keep up on my videos about writing and publishing and all of the bookish things, please click subscribe and the little bell icon that gives you an email alert every time I post a new video. So with that, tally ho!